I'm going to read this question. Your school district, and you named it, but I'm going to take that out, is doing virtual only until, well, who knows? We had an IEP meeting today. I feel like they are changing our placement by forcing us into virtual for an unknown or an indefinite amount of time. Would that be considered a change in placement? Great question. If so, shouldn't they have given us a prior written notice? Also, it seems like the virtual placement was predetermined since they wrote it into the IEP before the meeting. But here's my main question. If it is considered a change in placement and we file a due process complaint, which we are going to do, would that not trigger the stay put provision, forcing the district, in theory, to implement the old placement until the complaint is resolved? What could happen to them if they ignore the stay put provision, if anything? If these questions were already addressed in a previous video, let me know. Okay, good question. But the short answer is no, it's not a change in placement. Now, why is that? Well, because the school is virtual for everybody. So a change in placement would be attached to if the regular traditional school environment was open, if those services were accessible for all students, but they're not. So the school is choosing to go virtual only. And because it's impacting all students, then I'm not saying that it's appropriate. It's not. But as far as what the strict letter of the law would be, that wouldn't meet that definition. And so therefore, though I understand what you're saying, filing a due process complaint and then asserting stay put wouldn't necessarily be the way that I would recommend going. What you would need to do is just assert that your child is not receiving a free and appropriate public education at this time because the distant learning plan does not provide what it is that your child requires in order for him or her to make progress toward their goals. And I would also throw in that they're not having access to the general curriculum in the manner in which they learn. And so both of those things need to be asserted. But by asserting stay put, that would mean that the judge or the hearing officer would have the power to order the school to provide your child services in the environment that is listed in the IEP. And that would be backdating to the last agreed upon IEP, which is their normal IEP. And though that would be technically correct, the hearing officer doesn't have that kind of power because that would require the school to reopen, so to speak, and provide that environment for all students. So, and if the school is closed and they're going virtual only, then the hearing officer doesn't have that kind of power to force the school to, reopen its doors. And that's what would need to happen in order to provide your child services in that type of setting. So keep that in mind. That's why on one level, it's not discriminatory because it's impacting all kids. Where it does become discriminatory is that your child does not learn in the same manner as all the other kids. And therefore the school is not providing your child with those kinds of services because they're limiting how they're instructing. They're limiting it down to a one-size-fits-all virtual only model. At least when the schools are open, there's a myriad of options of instructional intervention, meaning general education only, push-in services into general education, to have your child pulled out of that setting and instructed in small groups or one-to-one. You see where they've taken that continuum of alternative placements that exist within your child's school environment, and they've trashed them all for one, and that is a virtual only option. So it's not a change in placement in that regard. Now, what can you do about it? Well, like I said, yes, filing due process is going to be the route that you would need to take, and then through the course of the negotiations with the school system, you would need to negotiate a cadre of services that would be direct and if find an additional location to where instruction can occur for your child, not only general instruction but also special education instruction and related services. And if that needs to be at, let's say, a private school, let's say a tutoring environment, let's say like a behavior analytic clinic where they do ABA therapy, those kind of things, that's what the school would just need to, they would need to identify, locate options in order to provide your child what your child requires. But a hearing officer is not going to have the authority to sit there and say, stay put, because that would mean that it would be ordering it would be ordering the school system to do what they can't do, right, or what they think that they can't do right now, and that is to reopen the schools in the way that they need to be opened. I hope that answered your question completely. But in your situation, you may have called us already. If you didn't, then send me a private message. Give us a call. We'll be more than happy to help you out. This is something that's exactly what we're doing right now. And you do live, well, you know that. You live in a state where we can help you out.